I was shocked when Mom died, but meeting Lily here turns those sad memories into good ones.
Really? That's great.
As I was about to enter the waiting room, I stopped when I heard a man and a woman talking from inside. Cracking the door open, to my surprise, there was Tom and a young woman, stark naked, embracing each other.
Lily, I love you.
Oh, stop it. You probably prefer your wife, don't you?
A woman called Lily, in a sweet voice, tried to ask Tom his true feelings.
No way. She's just a maid to me. I married her because she was convenient for childcare and stuff. Who would marry such an ugly person?
Hearing Tom laugh heartily, I felt a surge of anger from the pit of my stomach. Tom, I can't follow you any longer. You'll regret making me angry. My name is Susan. I'm 39 and work at an advertising agency. As everyone knows, the advertising agency business is incredibly demanding. So until I was 30, I was so busy working that I couldn't even think about my personal life. However, I finally started thinking about getting married. My colleagues, who joined the advertising agency at the same time as I did, got married one after another at the right age, though I had no idea when they found time for romance. Feeling left behind, I decided to try something called a singles event for the first time in my life. The singles event I attended was limited to people in their 30s and 40s. Being 30, I was the youngest participant and was surprised to be able to talk to several men. I'm not what you would call ugly, but I've never been called cute or beautiful by those around me. So, I was genuinely surprised and pleased that so many people were interested in me. At the event, I met a man named Tom. He was my age, had been married before, and his 9-year-old son, Danny, was currently living with him. Though surprised that Tom had a 9-year-old son at 30, he was always smiling and kind to me. He had been working at a gas station since graduating from high school.
Danny would be thrilled to have someone like you for his mom.
Tom said with a smile, which made my heart flutter. Would you mind if we exchanged contact? Before I knew it, I was the one asking Tom for his contact info. I had never been the one to ask a man for his contact details before, so I was surprised at my own forwardness.
Yes, of course. Please do.
After successfully exchanging contact information with Tom, we kept in touch after the singles event and went on several dates. During our dates, Tom was always a gentleman, practicing ladies first. When Tom confessed to me after our third date, I was overjoyed. That's how we became a couple. Our dating period was like a sweet throwback to our teenage years, filled with fun times. Tom proposed about 10 months into our relationship. Both of us were keen on getting married, so the timing felt just right. Yes, I'd love to. Thank you. I embraced Tom, savoring the happiest moment of my life. This was the peak happiness of my life. I didn't know there was a terrible hell ahead. Meeting Tom's son, Danny, for the first time, I greeted him at their house. After observing me, Danny cast his eyes down and retreated to his room. Oh, maybe he doesn't like me.
No, it's okay. He's just a kid, confused by the sudden introduction of a new mom. He'll warm up over time.
Yeah, you're probably right. I agreed with Tom's words, deciding to take time to build a relationship with Danny. The next day, I went to greet Tom's mother at her house. I had already given this news to my parents. I was told that Tom's father had passed away a few years ago, leaving his mother alone. Nice to meet you. I'm Susan. Tom has been a great help to me. Then, my mother-in-law, Nancy, began to scrutinize me as if appraising my worth. Nancy was flashy in appearance, adorned only with high-end brands of expensive watches and jewelry. I could tell at a glance that she was a person with high pride.
Well, you're quite the average lady, aren't you? Not particularly beautiful, but not ugly either. Well, if you're going to be Danny's mom, I guess that's fine.
I couldn't believe the first words that came out of Nancy's mouth. There was no outright hostility, but the sarcasm dripping from her words weighed heavily on my chest. That these words came at our first meeting was even more unbelievable.
Mom, come on, don't say that.
Tom said, seemingly finding it funny, yet he grinned sheepishly.
Oh, my apologies. So, we'll be living together from next week, then, looking forward to it.
Living together? I was bewildered again by Nancy's statement.
That's right. Didn't Tom tell you? Living together was a condition of the marriage.
I looked at Tom, seeking help, but he ignored me.
Oh, I forgot to mention that.
He answered without a hint of remorse.
Our place is too small, so I thought we'd buy a bigger house. Counting on your help with the mortgage payments.
Tom said it as if it were the most natural thing in the world. What was going on? Still unable to organize my thoughts, I left my in-laws' house. Swept along by Tom and Nancy's assertive manner, I ended up moving to a new house that Tom had arranged for us after our marriage. The house was a newly built detached home, and I was surprised he had bought a new one before we married.
Wow, big house.
Danny's eyes sparkled as he went exploring around the new home. It was a large two-family home, and I wondered how much the mortgage was. I was too scared to ask right away.
This will be comfortable. I'll take the largest room here, then.
Nancy appointed the largest room in the house, measuring about 20 square meters. I was surprised because it was the first floor and the room I wanted to use. Nancy, about that room, As I tried to protest, Nancy glared at me and said intimidatingly,
What? Do you have a problem?
No, not really. Overwhelmed by Nancy's domineering presence, I felt myself shrinking.
I'm hungry. Hurry up and make some food, old woman.
Danny yelled from afar. I was taken aback by being called old woman for the first time. Danny, I know it might be hard at first, but I'd like you to call me Mom.
Shut up, old woman. Just hurry up.
Contrary to our first meeting, Danny was boldly disdainful, repeatedly calling me old woman in a mocking tone. Come on, say something to him. Again, I looked to Tom for support, but he just rationalized the behavior.
Well, he's not used to it yet. Also, to Danny, I'm an old man, and Susan, you're old woman.
Besides, Susan, I'm hungry, too. Please make dinner.
I was astonished at Nancy's request. What?
Now that we're living together, Susan, you're going to cook for everyone, right? Oh, I'm so relieved. Now I don't have to do any housework ever again.
Nancy said something outrageous. Wait a minute. Can't we share the household chores? After all, I usually get home later than Tom. Nancy, you don't work, right? That's right. My job takes a lot longer than Tom's. I leave for work at 8 a.m. and get home around 9 p.m. During busy periods, I sometimes work past midnight, filling my days with nothing but work. In contrast, Tom usually gets to leave work on time. As for Nancy, she lives off her late husband's pension. I think it's only fair that she helps with the housework.
Oh, come on, don't you have any respect for the elderly? I can't move like I used to. Even walking a bit tires me out. And you want me to do the housework? What a terrible daughter-in-law.
Nancy dramatically clung to Tom as she said this. I was too appalled to respond. Tom should be helping with the chores, but he just turns a blind eye.
Hey, Mom's right. I bought this nice house, so the least you can do is the housework.
He says he bought a nice house, but in the end, it's my earnings that are going to pay off the mortgage. Tom's logic is absurd, and I dread thinking about our future life. Since moving into the new house, I realized I've been treated like a servant by Tom, Nancy, and Danny.
Old woman, this curry is too spicy to eat.
I'm bringing colleagues over tomorrow, so make sure you clean every corner.
My goodness, Susan, can't you even offer a drink to your husband tired from work? What a lousy wife.
Complaints about me pervade everything at home. I can't meet all your demands. I'm busy with work. But my pleas only earn cold stares from the family. I feel like Cinderella, bullied by her stepmother and sisters, enduring my married life. This isn't what I expected when I got married. Where has the kind Tom gone? Holding back tears of desperation, I felt overwhelmed with despair. 9 years have passed since then, and here we are. I'm still treated as an outsider and constantly receive snide remarks from my family. Lately, Tom comes home late, increasing my time with Nancy and Danny. I don't know if it's because of that, but they both seem to bully me to their heart's content. Danny, now a college student, has become more insidious in his sarcasm.
Tom's late home must be because you're not appealing, right?
Probably. Wouldn't be surprised if he's cheating somewhere. He's capable of that.
Nancy and Danny deliberately have this vulgar conversation within my earshot. I pretend not to hear and go on preparing breakfast for the next day.
Oh, if only Susan would leave this house, we could live here comfortably. After all, a stranger like her living in such a nice house should be grateful.
At Nancy's words, Danny bursts out laughing. I tremble with anger. Who is it that makes their daily meals? I want to retort, but holding back prevents further snide remarks. Tom, for his part, often comes home late and drunk, leaving me to take care of him. Aren't you drinking a bit much? Maybe ease up on the alcohol. When I caution him, Tom glares at me menacingly.
Shut up. I'm working hard every night. Let me drink as much as I like.
His bloodshot eyes are too intense to look directly at. Sighing, I help Tom out of his clothes and fetch him something to change into. How much longer will these days last? Maybe things will improve a bit when Danny gets a job and leaves the house. But I don't think he will live on his own just because he got a job. Where did I go wrong? Regrets pile up day after day. Day after day, my regrets only grow. It's not that I haven't thought about leaving. But then I wonder what would become of this nice house, or I should at least fulfill my parental duties until Danny gets a job. My unnecessary pride gets in the way. I've been serious since I was a kid, and I didn't want to throw things out in the middle. I wish that by tomorrow, a miracle would happen, and everyone would become kind. I was seriously hoping for something out of a fairy tale. Although no fairy tale miracle occurred, a life-shaking event happened a month later. What? Nancy died in an accident. I couldn't help but exclaim loudly in the office when I answered Tom's call and heard the shocking news. I couldn't believe it and listened carefully to Tom's story again. But indeed, as I first heard, Nancy had passed away. It happened in the afternoon while she was returning from shopping. She was hit by a car at an intersection and, due to the severity of her injuries, died at the hospital. Panicked by the sudden news, I was in total shock. What's wrong? I couldn't even respond properly when my coworker showed concern. I left work early that day to discuss the funeral arrangements with Tom, who also left early. I wonder when was the last time Tom and I had a serious conversation. Tom, visibly shocked, spoke in a dazed manner throughout. On the other hand, I couldn't muster any feelings of sadness, as much as it shames me to admit. I even felt a sense of relief. Of course, I couldn't say that in front of Tom, but I took it upon myself to properly arrange the funeral in his dazed state. As much as I disliked Nancy, skipping her funeral was not an option. After managing Nancy's funeral arrangements, I dressed in mourning clothes and headed to the funeral hall. Tom, her only son, was set to be the chief mourner. Danny was sulking and fiddling with his smartphone in the waiting room. As the time for the ceremony approached, Tom's relatives began to arrive in succession. As more attendees arrived, I got busy greeting them. I received words of condolence one after another, but honestly, I felt no sadness about Nancy's death, which allowed me to calmly receive everyone's words. While greeting the visitors, I noticed Tom was suddenly missing from my side. "Hey, Do you know where your dad went? Even when I asked Danny nearby, I got only an indifferent response.
I dunno. Maybe he's in the bathroom or something.
As the ceremony time drew closer, everyone was seated properly, but Tom was still nowhere to be seen. I headed towards the bathroom to look for him. But there was no sign of Tom in the bathroom, so I wondered if he might be in the waiting room. Just as I got there, I heard voices inside.
I was shocked when Mom died, but meeting Lily here turns those sad memories into good ones.
Really? That's great.
I was about to enter the waiting room when I was startled by a man and woman's voices from inside. Cracking the door open slightly, I saw Tom and a young woman, stark naked, embracing each other.
Lily, I love you.
Oh, stop it. You probably prefer your wife, don't you?
A woman called Lily, in a sweet voice, tried to ask Tom his true feelings.
No way. She's just a maid to me. I married her because she was convenient for taking care of the kids and stuff. Who would marry such an ugly person?
So, now that the child rearing is done, all that's left is to divorce your wife, right?
Yeah, of course. Just wait, Lily.
Hearing Tom laugh heartily, I felt a surge of anger from the pit of my stomach. What was this all about? Was I just a housemaid in Tom's eyes all along? Facing this harsh reality made me feel dizzy. Tom, I can't follow you any longer. You'll regret making me angry. I started recording a video of Tom and Lily's affair through the gap in the door with my smartphone. When I started recording, there was a beep sound, but the two lovers seemed oblivious to it. Irritated by this, I continued to record emotionlessly with my phone. Seeing Tom and Lily through my phone screen was a blow to my pride. After finishing, I quietly closed the waiting room door, and instead of heading to the funeral service, I went straight home. By now, there might be a commotion at the funeral service because of my absence. But I couldn't forgive what happened this time. Despite Nancy's death, Tom, her only son, was having an affair with a young woman before the funeral. Just thinking about it made my skin crawl. Once home, I furiously filled out the divorce papers I had previously obtained. After placing the completed divorce papers on the dining table, I started packing my belongings into a large suitcase. Being a minimalist, everything I took from the 9 years in that house fit into one suitcase. I grabbed my most important bank book and seal, and then I left the house for the last time. Tom called me about 2 hours into the funeral, but by then, I had already moved back to my parents' house. Both of my parents were at Nancy's funeral, so I was alone at home. I ignored Tom's calls while unpacking and locked myself in my room. I had only told my mom that I had run away from home due to some issues. I didn't want to speak to Tom for a while, so I planned not to answer his calls, but he persistently kept calling. If this continued, I wouldn't be able to live peacefully. Once my parents returned, I'd have to explain about Tom, and I didn't want that. Reluctantly, I decided to answer Tom's call. Hello. Do you need something from your mere housemaid? With as much sarcasm as I could muster, I started speaking.
Susan, what the hell have you been doing? Skipping my mom's funeral, what were you thinking?
Tom's voice was frantic, echoing loudly in my ears. While feeling the urge to throw my phone, I pressed it closer to my ear, determined to settle things with Tom. I just thought, maybe it's all right. I've always been treated badly by Nancy, anyway. I indirectly blamed him, without specifically mentioning catching him in the act.
What are you talking about? In what world does a daughter-in-law skip her mother-in-law's funeral? Also, when all the relatives and everyone came back to the house, you were gone, and there was a divorce paper on the table. We were just talking about what happened. You've embarrassed me.
Tom rattled on selfishly, trying to put all the blame on me. Disgusted by his attitude, I continued. Tell me, Tom, what's more disgraceful? Skipping the funeral of Nancy, who had been nasty to me for 9 years, or cheating in the waiting room on the day of your mother's funeral? I said it loudly enough to echo around the room, stating the damning fact. At that moment, Tom gasped, "What?" And in the background, I could hear his relatives whispering, "Cheating? What's this about?" Taking a deep breath, I spoke loudly again. "Everyone, I'm really sorry for missing Nancy's funeral today. The reason I wasn't there is because I caught Tom cheating with a young woman in the waiting room at the funeral hall." As I boldly stated the day's events, my voice carried through Tom's phone, causing a stir among the relatives with murmurs of "What?" and "What's going on?"
Hey, Susan, don't make stuff up to play the victim. Everyone's confused.
Tom tried to feign innocence, but his voice trembled, betraying his nervousness. Making things up? I guess nobody would believe me if I just said Tom was cheating at the funeral hall without proof. So, let me send you the evidence right now. Cheerfully, I declared my intention to send the proof. I could feel the anticipation from Tom's relatives over the phone. I then sent the video of Tom's affair to the family chat group, which included Tom and Danny.
I got something on my phone.
Danny's voice came from the background. Swallowing hard, I waited for their reaction.
What the hell is this?
The first to scream was the man himself.
Wow, this is too much.
Danny was appalled seeing a video of his father with a younger woman. I felt somewhat sorry for exposing Danny to such an embarrassing scene of his dad, but Danny was also a main contributor to my long-term suffering. He's an adult now. He should face some harsh realities.
"Tom, what have you done?"
An uncle's voice boomed through the phone. The women were speechless, with no one uttering a word. Here is the evidence of the affair. It's impossible to stay sane after seeing something like this. The girl looked to be in her early 20s. After hearing he call me a maid and saying I was just a tool for child rearing, don't you think it's abnormal to attend your mother-in-law's funeral so nonchalantly? I spoke as if appealing to the relatives. After hearing all this, nobody dared to blame me. Instead, an uncle consoled me.
"Susan, are you okay?"
His words alone were a relief to me.
This is fake. Nowadays, videos can be easily manipulated. You've been busy with work, but were you actually making this ridiculous video? Ugh, that's disgusting. What a low woman.
Tom retorted, far from apologizing, and presented an absurd theory that the video was fabricated. I couldn't help but burst out laughing at this. Look, even if it were manipulated, how could I have footage of you doing such a thing, Tom? We haven't been intimate for a long time, have we? There's no way I could have such material. Isn't that a bit too far-fetched for an excuse?
Oh, no.
Tom stumbled over his words in response. I could hear the relatives sighing in disbelief in the background. "And you've been coming home late recently, but you were actually cheating with Lily, weren't you?" I prodded further. Tom quickly defended.
No. I've really been busy at work.
But I already knew he was lying. "Oh, really? I thought you might say that, so I checked with your boss, Brian. And guess what? He said you've been leaving work on time every day."
Did you contact Brian?
Tom realized my information was accurate. Tom was clearly shaken. "Yes. And you know, Nancy and Danny said it themselves. They wouldn't put it past you to cheat." After hearing that, I decided not to attend the funeral and to leave you. After pouring out my heart, I took a moment to catch my breath.
"That's terrible."
Instead of Tom, an uncle voiced his sympathy for me. Encouraged by his words, I continued. "You might have seen in the video, you thought I was ugly but good enough to be a maid, so you married me, right? There was never any love, and all the kindness you showed me until we got married was a lie. I've been used by you, Nancy, and Danny, and frankly, it's been the worst 9 years. Still, I tried to serve you all, thinking we were family. And this affair is how you repay me? So, I'm done with you. I've already filled out my part of the divorce papers. Please complete your part, Tom and Danny, and never contact me again. I shouted from the bottom of my heart, perhaps the most straightforward I've been since marrying Tom. Everyone was silent, likely because my argument was indisputably just. As I was about to hang up, Tom finally spoke, his voice trembling.
Wait. Divorce, seriously. I admit I cheated with Lily. It was a moment of weakness. Look, I've been stressed since Mom died. I only love you, Susan. Please don't divorce me.
Tom was desperately trying to keep me. Without a single word of apology. He probably didn't want to divorce because my income was higher, and he feared losing the lifestyle he was accustomed to. Disbelieving Tom's self-serving attitude, I retorted sharply. What? Are you serious? In what world does a wife forgive years of mistreatment and infidelity? I don't ever want anything to do with you again. And be prepared, I'll be claiming a hefty alimony. I turned off the call button aggressively. With this, there should be no more begging for mercy from Tom. Turning off my smartphone, I collapsed onto the bed, realizing I could now live freely, separated from that family. Tears of joy streamed down my face at the thought. A few days later, Tom, sobbing, submitted the divorce papers, and I was finally free from him. The video I recorded of the affair served as strong evidence, allowing me to successfully demand substantial alimony from Tom and his mistress, Lily. Tom had lavished Lily with expensive brand goods, and now, with the mortgage of his house to pay, he was left penniless. Moreover, burdened with a massive debt, he couldn't survive on his gas station job alone. Desperate for money, Tom tried to take what Danny earned from his part-time job, leading to a fierce argument and eventually their estrangement. Danny moved out, starting life in a rundown apartment with cheap rent. However, influenced by bad friends at college, he got heavily into gambling and betting, quickly running out of money and nearly getting evicted. Now, without attending college and working day and night, Danny struggled to make ends meet, leading to his academic downfall and eventual dropout. Considering Danny never helped around the house, it was easy to predict his physical toll from the grueling work. He was not a decent man, so I feel satisfied now. Lily, as I suspected, was still a college student with no intention of working, living off various men she seduced. For her, Tom was just one of many, unaware of being deceived, while he naively doted on the young woman. Thinking about Tom's pitiable state made me feel nauseous. Lily, who I sued for alimony, was also entangled in affairs with other married men and faced multiple claims. She vanished from Tom's life, leaving him even more destitute. Now, Tom is moonlighting as a nighttime traffic controller, enduring days of mere exhaustion. It's time for him to reflect on his past misdeeds. I want Tom to experience hell until he has fully paid off the alimony debt. Meanwhile, after suddenly returning home, I confessed everything to my parents, who were furious. They assured me I could stay as long as I wanted, giving me peace of mind to live at home. I'm wary of marriage now. Maybe someone good will come along in time, but right now, I'm happy to be away from that awful family, and I want to focus on the job I love.